during this last summer break, I have two Nigerian people in my streets. They have children 6 and 9.
Yeah.
They also have children 6 and 9. So, and the fact that I have to watch my own daughter throughout the day, one of the things that I quickly realized was, at least for me, watching her alone is the same effort it will take for me to watch 5 of them.
Yeah.
So what I will do is I will then call their parent to get them ready for 10 o'clock. I'll come pick them and we'll go to the community library for then have lunch there till 1, 2, whatever they want to do. If they want to sleep, if they want to just rest their mind.
Yeah.
It was extremely, they didn't ask me to do it, but I just said the same work it will take me to watch one person is the same work
Yeah.
it will take me. So they found it extremely beneficial to them. Now I did that for, I was just doing that. Now, while recording this podcast, I've had somebody to watch my daughter for 2 days. I took her to one place today.
Yeah.
I took her to the next place, the same day, another day.
Yeah.
And it is not like I'm just taking her to a random place. They already know each other.
Yeah.
Sometimes she will tell me she wants to go there. So I'm just, I'm just going back to saying that, having a community is, very, very important.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happens when you live in major cities is that community living becomes eroded. When you live in high rises,
Yeah.
that's one of the personally, that's one of the major reasons why I moved to Glasgow and stayed in Glasgow.
Yeah.
And in a part of Glasgow that is quiet, slower,
Yeah.
more older people, more people that you can stay with and chat. I stayed in Dubai for about 3-4 years, but I did it, it was a fast
Yeah, I can imagine.
I used to live in Lagos too. It was a very, very fast-paced city. But, having this kind of community is, it's one of the things that can prolong anybody's life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, it's something you have successfully done, over and over and again. How, maybe I will rephrase that question. How do you think these kind of things can be, brought back into daily living, into cities, into environments?
I think probably one of the biggest issues is, and I might be wrong, this is just from my perception, but there seems to be an issue with commercial building ownership. A lot of buildings kind of getting left to rot. And I think that's kind of complicated for many ways, not just it's not just the age of the buildings and it's not just an absent landlord. It's also things like the rules and regulations around being able to renovate these buildings. Like, I think it's a complex issue. But I think, we've lost all these little high streets. We've lost all of these buildings that would have previously been, shops and whatnot. And obviously even Sauchiehall Street now, it's wild that for me, and again, I probably don't understand the industry well enough. I'm kind of like this. The people that own these buildings, why aren't they doing something? Where's their responsibility to make sure that, all of our commercial properties that would previously have been the thing that gets people out and get the community and spaces, like, why are they allowed to let the buildings get into the I don't fully understand the industry. I don't really know what's going on, so I can only kind of make assumptions as like an outsider on what's kind of happening with it. But I think that's probably one of the contributing factors to lack of communities. If when you go to places and actually there's no shops left anymore, well, there's less reason for people to go out of the house and do it. But I think that's probably always been a little bit of an issue. And I don't think it's not, that technology has kept us in our homes more. And I think, we can look back to before the internet, and obviously I was a kid that grew up playing out my bike, and I went home when the streetlights went off. That was how you knew to go home, because the streetlights went on. Sorry. And kids don't have that freedom anymore. So they're growing up without an understanding of, developing,
the social skills,
the risk assessment, what it means to just go and hang out with your friends somewhere. They're all online. They're all it's just a totally different world. It's there's so many influencing factors. But like with anything, there's probably going to be what do you call it? Like a old, it's like, eventually like bands that I liked when I was younger, all of a sudden they're all having their reunions now because they know we're an age where we've got money. When I went to get my son's Christmas present a few years ago, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles again. That's because so I think everything comes in cycles, and I think that, we as adults now, we had this childhood. Maybe there will be like a big change again where we really, really push for low technology. And yeah, I saw somebody recently has released a new phone. It's called a tin can. It's just a house phone,
Oh, really?
but it's for kids. And I think it's still maybe a mobile phone, but it just looks like it's called a tin can. It's just like a old school landline to help them have more of a low technology lifestyle. So yeah, who knows?
If how what would you advise somebody who wants to come into your sector now? What is the roadmap you will give to them to get to a place where it's sort of sustainable, have an impact, being able to balance?
And I mean, I think the first bit of advice I would give is to really understand the social problem that it is that you're trying to address. Because I think a lot of people are like do-gooders, and I mean that in a good sense. Like a lot of people are, they really want to, they're just driven by helping people, but quite often what they see as being like the social impact is actually kind of stuff that's just nice. Like, oh, that would be nice to do. That would be nice to do for people. So if you have a passion for something, so say for example, you're like, okay, I really want to support working class creatives into the industry. That's a big problem just now, particularly in TV and film. And say, for example, you're like, okay, well, it would be nice to do a project where I could go to, an art school and I could do a thing. And it's like, well, actually, is that the demographic? The demographic at art school, is that actually the demographic that would be helpful? Probably not, because actually we all know that art schools have the same problem where it's largely, rich middle class kids that get in, and it's the working class kids that don't even get in to begin with. So then you're like, okay, well, actually, then where is that demographic? How can I get in front of them? And then it's looking at, okay, well, how do I actually help them? Like, what is the problem? What is the barriers? So I think sometimes we get so excited about helping people, but we don't actually kind of like work our way down to the root cause of the problem and pinpoint the little changes. Because I think as well with a lot of stuff, or at least this is my way that I like to think about things anyway, is early kind of intervention
Yeah.
is kind of more beneficial than waiting until a problem has. And a lot of that is maybe age as well. So maybe like neurodivergent kids and things like that. The earlier we can get in there and support them, the better it's going to be for the long run. So really figuring out what that social impact is and digging down to get to the absolute core of it and figure out what is the real problem and also what can you actually do about it. And then I think after that, it's um, I think maybe some of the advice is maybe say as well as like, actually, can you do it? Do you have the stamina? I mean, yourself running a business is really, really difficult as it is. You're essentially running two businesses at once because you've got this entity that you're trying to generate income from, and then you've got this entity that you're trying to deliver social impact in. Quite often one makes money and one makes you a loss. Sometimes they're both going to make you a loss. And sometimes there's a big overlap as well. There's no right or wrong way to do things. But there's going to be a substantial amount of time that you're not going to pay yourself. There might be times you have to put money in. And it's going to be really, really difficult. And I would never want to put somebody off trying for something, but also I think it's really important that we are realistic about the fact that it's so difficult. It's, and I think in those situations, it's not saying like, okay, that's going to be really difficult, don't go for it. It's like, what extra support do you need to be able to have a shot? Is it that you need more money? Okay, well, where can you get the funding that you need? And where can you get the financial help that you need to be able to really understand cash flows, to really understand, okay, if I get this funding, how do I make sure that it lasts? Or when am I supposed to figure out, okay, that's not working and I need to make changes? And I think as well, somebody that's just starting out, I think as well, probably some of the advice I would give is learn how to look after yourself and learn how to recognize burnout. I'm seeing this as somebody that regularly experiences burnout because I, even to this day, struggle to stop. I struggle to rest. I have asked ChatGTP, how are you supposed to rest? Because I feel like, but I think again that comes with having ADHD. It's something that you feel like a motor is constantly running, and that is just something, the kind of hyperactivity that comes with it. But it's I really struggle to physically stop, and it sounds a bit cheesy. And if anybody has ADHD and they really struggle with meditation, I would say really push and try. That's definitely something I've found has been massively beneficial. It feels so silly, I think, when your brain is a constant like beehive. But find the things that work for you. Set boundaries for yourself. Set boundaries for other people, and stick with them. Setting boundaries is so much easier at the beginning than it is at
Mm.
the
At the end, so
yeah, especially with other people, if
are
you're
used to you.
yeah, and I think people that are socially driven are quite often people pleasers as well. They want to do good, but it means that they end up sometimes, people take advantage. But if you set those boundaries from the beginning and learn how to navigate what it is that you're willing to give and learning how to say no at the beginning makes it so much easier. Write a contract for yourself. Write like write a policy, a self policy. You're allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. Can be helpful to set those kinds of rules. Whether you actually stick to them or not is another story. But yeah, I've grown a lot and I've learned a lot about myself and the boundaries that I probably should have set
So,
early on. Again, from experience. But
like from your own pers- that's a lot to take in. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
So I'm sure you meet with young entrepreneurs in Glasgow. I want us to focus now. What is one mistake that you see them make every single time that's you feel like saying, "Ah, no, you're not supposed to do this."
Um, a mistake every single time. It's quite a lot. I think probably the thing that comes up a lot, and it's not a huge mistake, but I think it can really be detrimental in the early stages when somebody's trying to apply for funding. But the thing that I see a lot is people not understanding the difference between a customer and a beneficiary. Because obviously when you're a business, you know, people come and they're customers. People come and they're customers. It might be business customers, it might be, everyday customers. But with a social enterprise, you've got customers and you've got beneficiaries. And say, for example, somebody was starting like a community cafe, right? And they might say, well, it's a cafe and everybody can come and everything's low price. Therefore, everybody that comes is a customer and everybody's a beneficiary. And it's like, no, because if somebody comes in and they are, they don't need your help, they're going to be a customer. If somebody comes to you and needs access to services for free, etc., they're going to be a beneficiary. But I think some people want to just say like, oh, everybody's a customer, everybody's a beneficiary. And now that can be really difficult to figure out depending on what industry you're in. Because again, something like a community cafe, you're like, well, how would you know? And that's where you have to do lots of research into who's actually coming, first of all, who's coming to the cafe, what's their background, what is it that they need? Because surely you're not just set up just to be like, a cheap cafe. What is your social aims? What is it what's the problem that you're trying to solve? Who's it you're trying to help? And then who are those people? And then how are they a beneficiary? What is it that you're doing that is giving them something that essentially doesn't cost anything? And again, it's not to say that every single community interest company or social enterprise must be set up in a way where their beneficiaries always get something for free. It might be that it's just low cost. It might just be that it's accessible. But I think being able to really go to a funder and say to them, this is who our beneficiaries are. This is why they come to us. This is what their needs are. and this is who our customer is. They come and they spend money with us because, and this is the products that we give them, and we know that they'll come. So being able to really define the two and break down exactly who they are when it comes to applying for funding in the early stages, I think is really, really, really instrumental. And I think it's actually the last thing people think about quite often because they just want to do good things. And that's great, but you just, with everything, you just want to work it down to the lowest possible bit of data. But it's hard. I think market research in general, it's an absolute nightmare. I hate doing it, but we all have to at some point. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. The last question will be two. No, next one is, what question do you have for the next guest?
Ooh, that's a good one. What question do I have for the next guest? I would say, I'm trying to think of something really juicy. I'm trying to think of something really juicy.
Should we leave that and come back later?
Yeah, I'll have a wee think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you can be too crazy. If you are to create your own world, your own perfect utopia, how will you describe it? That's going to be the last.
Okay. My own utopia. Well, I think I would. I mean, the obvious initial things would be, no war, no world hunger. Like, everybody's kind to one another. And we're like, okay, let's just start from scratch. Let's, more community living. People can grow what they need. People can create what they need within their circles. We're not trying to, we're not having to ship things from across the world. And obviously that's not always possible. International trade is, fantastic. And we would really struggle without it. But when we think about things like fast fashion, we don't need the amount of crap that's going from one place to another that's currently happening. So yeah, I think I would just create a kind of world where everybody just had what they needed. And I think that is actually most of the issues that come in life is from people that either don't have something that they need or they feel like they don't have something that they need, and whether that is because somebody else have it and whatnot. So yeah, easiest way to sum it up is a world where everybody's basic human needs are met, and they have what they need. I think that would be interesting to see how that played out. That would be a good game simulator to set up and see what actually happened. Whether people ended up turning on each other again, we don't know. But okay, back to right. Okay, so that was the question from the previous. Okay. So my question for the next guest is, it's a tricky one. Now all I can think of it is that question.
Give you time now.
Yeah, I'll have a think. So my question for the next guest is, if tomorrow you were able to set laws or rules or instructions for the ultra wealthy, so people that are hoarding, the kind of vast amount of resources and money that kind of exists right now, what would they do? What rules would they put in place? If they would they put rules in place to force people to either redistribute their wealth or, would they let it slide? Would they keep things the way that they are?
Okay.
And if the rules are in place, what are the rules? What must they do with it? Okay.
Thank you so much.